Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Art of Leading, Captivating Leadership Narratives, all part of the stuff that growth is made of. I am excited to introduce you to Paul Gallen. Paul is the president of Pier 60 Collection and a founding member of my Vistage CEO Peer Advisory Group here in New York City. I am a huge fan, Paul, and admire all the things that you are doing and innovating within your organization, and I look forward to this discussion today.
Thanks,
How's your day going so far?
Really good. Thank you. Good to be with you.
Good. Well, what I'd love to do is for you to share, an overview of your company. Not everyone knows who Pier 60 or what Pier 60 Collection is.
Sure. So the Pier 60 Collection is a collection. It's we own and operate 3 event venues located within Chelsea Piers, which is on the west side of Manhattan. We're on the Hudson River. Beautiful venues, beautiful waterfront venues. Our largest venues is Pier 60. Then we have the Lighthouse and Current, and we're what I'd call a full service event business. So I have a team of 400 people here. So should you book an event here, we do everything for you. We provide the food and the beverage, and we set the setups and the planning logistics and the audio visual. So we're soup to nuts. And we do about 600 events here a year, all types of events. We do nonprofit galas, business conferences, meetings, fashion shows, proms, mitzvahs, weddings. So you name it, we do it, ranging from probably 50 people up to about 2,500 people. So Pier 60 is pretty big. It's probably one of the largest event venues in the city. And we do some pretty cool events here.
Well, I know I believe you've had Rihanna there. I mean, you've had some real rock stars performing in your location too, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, that's one of the nice kind of upsides of this job. You get to see some pretty cool things. So you never know who's going to be here on a night. It can be really cool.
And, just as a side note for the listeners, we had our meeting on Monday or Tuesday at the Current, and it is, an amazing venue, and the food is like 5-star plus. It's really beautiful, delicious, innovative. It's going to be hard, whoever's hosting next month, after being with you in this special location. So
tough crowd. We had to please.
Yeah. So, would love for you to share your career journey and how you came into your current role.
Sure. So I started in the hotel business. I'm originally from Ireland. I went to a college in Ireland called the Shannon College of Hotel Management, specifically with the aim of a career in the hotel business. And I spent a couple of years after I graduated working in the UK before moving to New York in 1994. And I've been here ever since. So I've been in New York about 30 years. And the first 18 years of that were in working in the hotel business. I worked at 3 really well-known New York City hotels. First the Plaza, and then the Waldorf Astoria, and the Hilton New York. And I held a variety of senior leadership positions in restaurant management, food and beverage, banquets, sales, conference services, but particularly on the banquet sales side, which was really where I really became most passionate about. I love the buzz of big events and seeing them all come together. And in 2012, I was very fortunate to get this role, and I've been here ever since.
Thank you for sharing that. So if you go back in time, what advice would you give your younger self?
Oof. I think to really take time to enjoy the journey. And I think sometimes when we're younger, we really want things to happen really quickly, and we're always looking ahead to the next thing, the next promotion, and careers really do take time to build, and I think you have to accept that, and that's hard when you're young. But I feel like if I look back, it probably could have really been a little less anxious and just enjoyed myself a little more, and really appreciated what was going on around me. You somehow get there in the end.
I think so many of us, at least I can speak for myself that, it's advice I should have taken when I was younger as well. So I'm sure the listeners can relate to that. So, when you became early on, when you became a leader, what were some of the challenges that you faced earlier in those leadership roles?
I think some of the challenges for me were probably born out of my personal circumstances, and that moving to New York from Dublin was such a really massive change, culture shock. I obviously very fortunate I spoke English, but in some regards, the language spoken in hospitality in New York was very different to anything I've experienced. So it's just trying to
Interesting.
getting up to speed with, the style of how things were done. I was also working in a union environment, which was very new to me,
Mm.
created a very different dynamic than I was used to. Um, but it was exhilarating. It was definitely challenging, and it was so new, and then also just trying to find my feet in this crazy city, outside of work. But I found it was just so new and so different, and I worked at the Plaza initially, which was just this just amazing institution, and the characters that kind of were patrons of the hotel, in addition to the characters that worked at the hotel, and just trying to fit
Mm-hmm.
in and get along and trying to figure out what the hell was going on was really interesting, little challenging, but quite a lot of fun.
So just following up on something you said. So what, is it more the type of venue? What's so different about hospitality in Ireland or Dublin versus New York City? What were some of the
I would say definitely.
besides Union? I mean, the
Well,
Union,
the
I'm
unions
sure
are,
is a
it's
yeah,
really, it's
yeah,
the scale, I think. I think the scale and the kind of sense of expectation in New York. And, they're, New Yorkers they want everything in a New York second, as they say. So, with an expression when I worked at the Waldorf, that the difficult immediately, the impossible might take a few moments longer. There was that sort of mentality that, you just had to figure stuff out, really difficult stuff pretty quickly, and people were pretty demanding. Um, uh, but yeah, and it was just at a much bigger scale than I was used to.
yeah.
I'd worked in a 100-bedroom hotel in the UK. I'd worked in a 30-bedroom hotel in Dublin. So here I was working in 900-bedroom, one of the largest hotels in the city in New York.
And
In
such a landmark, the
And it's a
Plaza, right?
landmark, and
Yeah, yeah,
Donald Trump owned it, and you'd
yeah.
see him walking through the hotel, and all the famous people, and it was just it was really cool. I mean, my first couple of weeks there were just before the holidays, and we would have a line for the afternoon tea of 400 people lining up. So tea would open at 3:45, and the line would form from like 2 o'clock. Hundreds of people all wanting to come and spend 60, 70, $80 a head for some tea sandwiches and a cup of tea. I just thought this was remarkable. I mean, he did this day in, day out, and long hours, and but it was a great experience.
Yeah. Well, I think, side note, I remember taking my kids for tea there with the whole Madeline, Madeline lives at the Plaza. I think
Yeah.
that's her name, right? It was yeah.
Eloise.
Eloise, thank you. Not
Yeah.
Eloise, that's right.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I have fond memories of that as well.
Yeah.
So, just changing topics a little bit, the last few years with the pandemic and post pandemic has been very challenging for leaders and business owners. Some owners lost business totally, while others benefited. I know the COVID was real challenging for anyone in the hospitality area. So, would love to hear just a little bit about some of the lessons you've learned or any aha moments from those past few years and
Sure.
how you guys pivoted. What did you guys do during that time?
Yeah. Well, you said it, Margaret. The pandemic was a nightmare for hospitality, and particularly for the event business, in that social distancing and events do not mix. So we were dead. We were closed down in immediately of March of 2020, and you really didn't know when it was going to end. I mean, it was so bleak, the outlook, and how long is it going to take to get a pandemic, or excuse me, a vaccine, and how long is this going to go on for? So, whereas so many other industries were able to go remote and continue, thriving, we were dead in the water, and it was really tough, and particularly hard in some of the decisions we had to make around, particularly the people who work for us. We have a fantastic team here, and having to furlough so many people, it was terrible, and again, not knowing where this thing was going to end and what would happen to everybody. But yeah, we were very, very fortunate. I suppose in even the depths of adversity, there is opportunity. And we were very fortunate that, we were able to partake in a meal creation program provided by the city of New York to assist senior New Yorkers who were housebound. And so between May of 2020 and I think September of October, we produced and delivered, and we delivered them to people's homes, 1.2 million meals. So
wow.
So it was, when I look back, it was really, it was exhilarating because we got the contract deal to do this on a, midweek, and the ask was, can we get going by Monday? And I think we delayed it a couple of days, but it was kind of within a week we had to retool the factory. You had huge challenges around suppliers. The whole supply chain was all messed up. Getting the food, finding people, and also to operate in the absolute height of the lockdown. Where no one was supposed to do anything to have people come to work and try and create all these meals while having everyone stand 6-7 feet apart, all that kind of stuff, masks and sanitation. But there was a great sense of camaraderie and people coming together to do this, because it was a great cause, first of all, and it was lovely to be able to have people coming back. It was great to have life in the venues again. And then, of course, it was a shot in our arm in terms of some cash to just to be able to have that on hand.
To keep the lights on.
Keep the lights on. Yes,
yeah.
It was fantastic. So it was overall a great experience. Unfortunately, it ended a little sooner than we wanted, but it was definitely a huge help. And even when it ended sort of October, that was probably the bleakest time of the pandemic, because from that October 20 to sort of the summer of 21 was the period where it was still uncertain when we could do events again. But by the summer, it was apparent we could have events, but not, crazy rules. We were allowed to have a wedding where each family would have a circle on the dance floor, and they could, the Morrison family stand over there and the Gallen family dance over there.
Interesting.
So we experienced a little bit of that as just banana stuff, but we got it. But I think when I look back on the pandemic, one of the things I feel when you say aha moment, one thing we really embraced was to look after all our clients and our customers, even though we didn't know when we would ever be able to have them back here to have events. We really leaned into that. We kept all our sales team for the most part working, and we just spent that time working on those relationships, doing the little things wherever we could be flexible and helping people out, whether it was refunding a deposit, changing a date, whatever it would be, sending a gift in the spring. And I think we found that we were, perhaps we were in contrast to some of our competitors, but that appears to have really been something people remember, and we hear that a lot now in these kind of post-pandemic days when things are obviously much, much better.
Yeah, it's so. First of all, thank you for sharing all of that. I'm sure most people have no idea that you're delivering food and how you pivoted, even if it was for a short period of time, in terms of supporting New Yorkers that were homebound. So I think that's such a great story. And, it's a great way to engage your team as well. It was such a tough time with no playbook, right? No playbook.
How do we do this?
Yeah.
Because while it was food we were producing, it was completely different. It was like sort of airplane meals, So, we'd never done this. You need to package them, and there were very strict parameters around labeling them and nutrition, because they were going to, vulnerable seniors, so
Yeah.
it was a whole new learning curve, but ultimately a great experience.
Yeah. Well, thank you for sharing that. And really, you made a difference in so many people's lives during that time. So,
Well,
um,
so
so changing topics just a little bit, when you look at today, what would you say biggest challenge and biggest opportunity is right now for you?
um, definitely the biggest challenge coming out of the pandemic for us was to find people. We were very lucky that I think we had about 75% of our team return right after the pandemic,
Mm,
but there was attrition and people did move to other parts of the country or decide they wanted to do something else during that period we were closed, which was almost 2 years. And it was very, very tough to find, people to come back to work, particularly in culinary positions or back of house positions. Now that's definitely improved a lot. It's much, much better, but uh, but it's still trying to attract leadership and talented managers. It has continues to be a challenge, and I think that's something that we're trying to figure out. And look, hospitality is a tough business, and it's long hours and social hours. And I feel the pandemic, probably we saw some bleed away to people saying, I'm going to try something else, and they did. And there are just fewer people in the pool that maybe were there before the pandemic. New York's a very, very expensive city to live in. So that's
right.
challenging us, and we're trying to figure it out. So, but it emphasizes how important it is to retain the great people we have and do all we can to develop and nurture and, make it a place they want to work, which is something, I spend a lot of time thinking about and focusing on. And then, the challenge in this business, we are a high touch human being to human being business. No amount of AI or, artificial intelligence is going to serve a table of 10 at a black tie gala.
Hmm.
We need people, and with that comes, the world of social media. You're not far away from anything that could hit your reputation. So we're always challenged to continue raising the bar, maintaining standards, exceeding expectations. Because you just don't want to. It's very easy to lose those high standards and that execution. So I challenge people every day to how do we get better? How do we keep the standards better and improving all the time?
And I know you as a leader are continually thinking about that too, which hats off to you on that. What I love to hear, although you talk about the challenge of the people and whether it's less people in the pool or whatever that is, you guys, so much of your employees have been with you for a long time, which says volumes about the culture and the values that you guys live day in and day out.
Yes, it's really. We had our annual holiday party. We have our holiday party in January after all the celebrating's done in December, because our team are busy then. But the coolest part of that is we hand out service awards, and for the first time we were able to hand out 25-year awards, and we had five. So
Wow.
it's pretty neat. We and
Yeah.
5 or 6 for 20 and 15 for 15 years. So really cool, and it's they're great ambassadors, and in to anyone else working here or just starting with us, that people have been here that long and they have a wealth of
Yeah.
experience that they share.
And I bet in so many other even high-end hospitality places there is, turnover is a real issue. So that really says a lot.
Yeah.
So
Yes.
yeah, that's great. So how do you measure success as a leader, Paul?
Well, I think I mean, obviously with the the metrics that we measure business by, whether it's financial and our guest satisfaction, but also our our team member satisfaction, and making sure, whether it's through feedback sessions or surveys, that they're enjoying coming to work here every day. And I think great communication, and communicating effectively, and then how well we're doing with developing people, and we talked about it a little earlier on how important that is for me, that retention, creating an environment where people can feel they can have a long career here, and I had a management meeting with my whole leadership team just at the end of December, just sort of recapping the year, and we were giving a shout out to our 10 promotions that we'd had within the year, that various managers had been promoted, and what was really cool was 9 of them had started here in hourly positions. So they'd started in an hourly position, and we're now in a management position, in some cases senior leadership positions. So they're great ambassadors for us, and it's a great story to tell as we recruit. So I definitely put a lot of emphasis into how do we create an environment where people can really grow and spend a long time here and continue to grow, because I'm not I don't have 1,000 hotels like Hilton. This is it. We've 3 venues here, and the scale of the business here. So but we've a lot going on here, and I think people really embrace it.
Yeah, I love that. Thank you for sharing that. So, switching topics a little bit, I know that you read a lot of books, and would love to hear, what are you reading right now?
Let me see. What am I reading? I'm just getting into a really good book called Red Notice by Bill Browder. It's kind of crazy. It's actually nonfiction. It's a true story about he was an investor in sort of post Soviet Union collapse, and buying up Russian companies that they were selling really undervalued, and he ended up getting entangled with the Russian oligarchs, and Vladimir Putin's involved, and there was a murder, and he experienced some really crazy stuff. So I'm not all the way through it, but it's a real page turner. So I'm really enjoying that.
Sounds interesting. I have to put that on my list of something to read. And then what about what would you say your favorite leadership book is, and why?
Well, I have to say I've been reading quite a few of them, but I did read a book last year that's really had an impact on our business. And it's called Measure What Matters by John Doerr. And John Doerr had worked for Intel, for Andy Grove, back in the 60s and 70s, and ultimately became an early investor in Google. But Andy Grove was famous for a framework of management around the idea that all goals would be achieved by breaking them down in quarters by smaller objectives, and the objectives will be measured by key results. So at the end of the quarter, you would go, did we achieve the key results? And they're either yes or no. You either did or you didn't. You just kind of score yourself. And when Google, after John had invested in them, Larry Page and Sergey Brin asked him if he could help them with the sort of management of Google, because while they were expert on the technology side, they weren't great at the management side. And John Doerr he said, I have this framework that I learned at Intel, and this whole idea around OKRs. And so I was fascinated by that, and it's a really easy read, and some great kind of real-time stories about how it was applied in all types of different businesses. And we actually adopted that here last year, and we're into year 2 now. And I have to say it's been great, and it's been a real game changer, I think, for the business, and creating kind of collaboration across different departments and insight into what other people are doing, and just creating a sense of being a lot more goal oriented. So we've been really getting into that, and so definitely quite a kind of a random read that turned into something that has kind of had a bit of a long lasting impact.
That's great. Thank you for sharing that. And I've read that book as well, and it is an easy read, probably harder to execute than it makes it sound in the book, but they do give you it's a very clear, I mean, he does a very good job in terms of laying it out and giving examples and how to, but congratulations. I know it's made a big difference, to you, to Google, to Apple, to so many companies.
Pretty good.
Well, thank you for sharing that. Well, great. So, in closing, what would you say are some of the critical success factors or secret sauce to being an effective leader today?
It's a really good question. I think it's a combination of, as a leader, of respect, and I think treating others how you want to be, would like to be treated yourself, empathy, great communication, and providing a sense of vision. I think, all those elements, and I think all of those, creating an environment where people just feel really motivated and aligned with a vision, that they're all moving in the same direction. And if you can create that, you have a good chance of success, I think. So certainly something I strive for. I'm not saying we're absolutely perfect at it, but it's something to work towards every day.
Thank you for sharing that. Those are all really important. And I think you would be a wonderful leader to work for. So thank you for everything you do and for sharing your thoughtful insights around the art of leading, and which you do very well. So thank you for everyone for listening. This is the stuff that growth is made of.
Thank you, Margaret.
Thank you.